We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do us well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. Don't forget to ring the notification bell. If you want to support this independent national college football's rebel outpost with a donation to help us keep the lights on and grow the channel, just hit that $sign where you make a comment, and I will get you super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome, everybody. Come on in. Do not be afraid. Everybody come on in into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls. I have been going back and forth this morning, all afternoon. Should I do this show at this time? Because it's going to be scattershot. It isn't. We are going to be bouncing around here. We are working on a couple of stories that have been happening here. We believe now that we can say with confidence that there has been some hot bubble of action happening in the month of June, in the month of February, and who knows, maybe every month. Who knows? There is one particular story that we're trying to nail down, and if I can nail it down, I could be able to give pretty good specifics. We're talking at the level of the USC story, the Colorado story, and all of that. From my end, things are starting to, in this era of cloak and dagger, things are beginning to leak. Which means that information is starting to leak to the people that we know and have relationships and who we rely on. And we're not talking about just the Florida State money perch, which is his perspective, but we're talking about other money perches, administrators, the chatter behind the curtain. Now, one of the rules in realignment is every realignment is at least a little bit different than its predecessors. But there's always a familiarity within these realignment ways. There's realignment positioning, and then there's realignment decision making. And it can flip like a switch. It can happen fast. Before we get into it's not a whole lot of information, but I want to get it out there because, again, you know how this works. We put out that information of the SEC and the Big Ten getting themselves ready for a potential quick strike. Right? We put all that out there. And then Ross Dellinger, 7 to 10 days later, comes out with that article. Nothing is imminent, ladies and gentlemen. Let me get that out of the way. Not that we know of. If there is something imminent, then we do not have the story, and I'm going to have to come on here and take the big L. We do not believe anything is operational. But we're starting to get more information. And a lot of it, I got to be careful with. And a lot of it is very vague. The doors are starting to open. You remember Ross Dellinger's article that talked about the shot clock in how realignment talk amongst the schools and the conferences have been elevated, have intensified. I don't know if I'm using the correct words, but he said something to that effect. Well, he made it obvious in the article that there had been talks going on before the Cruz and Cantwell bill put Section 205 in there. Right? If you read that article, everybody came to the same conclusion. Well, in PATC country, we know that was happening. We talked about that positioning all the time here at Peek Around the Corner. We've been talking about it for months. Two things can be true at the same time. A lot of talks, a lot of positioning, but nothing is imminent. Those two things, well, it's been accurate. So there's a couple of months here. The month of June, which was just last month, And the month of February has come in front of us here at Peek Around the Corner, has come in front of certain people. And so I think what we're looking at is the month of February was pre-Cruz and Catwell positioning, and the month of June, late June, elevation time. The force. We are going to go back in time here. We are going to go back in time, and we are going to revisit the Washington and Oregon scenario. Because in some ways, not always, this is completely different. This is completely different. But in some ways, this mirrors the Oregon and Washington and the Big Ten situation. The cities that were used in the Washington-Oregon pursuit from the Big Ten happen in New York City and happen in Chicago. And we've got Birmingham and Washington, D.C. added to this story that is going on. Let me explain how the sausage is usually made. When these cloak and dagger meetings occur, when it involves the higher level intermediaries, like they're not intermediaries, they are the decision makers or the people that are right under the decision makers. Those type of cloak and dagger meetings, a conference like the Big Ten, a conference like the Big 12, a conference like the ACC, a conference like the SEC will go where they are. That's how it's done. That's how it's done. In other words, Frank Potter. Frank Potter is representing Virginia Tech. The fat guy from Minnesota is representing the Big Ten. Frank Potter has a meeting in Nashville, Tennessee. He's going there for some educational exercise. And he tells me that he's supposed to be in Nashville, Tennessee. And I, as the Big Ten, want to talk to Frank Potter. I will make myself available in Nashville, Tennessee. The day before Frank Potter is going to be there, the day after Frank Potter is going to be there, or during some time when Frank Potter is scheduled. It seems to us at Peek Around the Corner that Washington, D.C., there's been a lot of people going to Washington, D.C., a lot of people going to Washington, D.C., and that has been a very convenient place to, let's go have dinner, a cocktail. And New York City is a natural place to go to. Everyone's going to New York City all the time. All these conferences. Birmingham, I'm not going to be able to get into on this live show. Birmingham is in and around Birmingham. Something happened. I can't get into it. But we know Birmingham has been involved. And of course, Chicago. We are going to go back. We are going to go back and we're going to talk about Oregon and Washington. We're going to go back and read an article, not the whole thing, just parts of it. We are going to talk about where they met, when they first met, who did the Big Ten have on their candidates list? A candidate list that was filled with those that the Big Ten had interest and who they thought were attainable at the time. It just so happens that half the list turned out to be not attainable as more and more the legal counsel got involved. So then that list was cut in half. And at some point, Oregon and Washington was the 17th and 18th target of the Big Ten. But it happened well before August 4th. It happened well before USC and UCLA joined the conference in June 30th of 2022. How do we know that at Peek Around the Corner? Because I reported that on June 30th, 2022. I said it was going to be Oregon and Washington. When we first started this YouTube channel, it was going to be Washington or Oregon within the next 5 months or the next 5 years. See, at some point, the positioning, you get the information, and internally you make a decision. They've got the information they need. The decision is made as long as they get enough support from the media company. Are we at that point yet? It doesn't mean anything is imminent. But Oregon and Washington were 17 and 18. Months before everything happened in which they got the invite. And again, you're asking, how do we know that? Well, that's what we reported for months at Peek Around the Corner. Are we getting close to that? Or are we already there? I'm going to mostly talk about the Big Ten today. Although we could be talking about the Southeastern Conference tomorrow or the next day with new information. If you go, and we are going to go through that article from Ross Dellinger, it was like a post-mortem on everything that had happened. And 95% of it is what we reported in real time at Peek Around the Corner. You're going to get reminded of a few things that happened. You're going to get reminded of who wasn't on board with the Washington and Oregon addition to the Big Ten. Some very powerful, the biggest brand schools in the conference were against the Oregon-Washington addition. It was the others in the Big Ten that wanted Oregon and Washington. It was your Nebraska, it was your Northwestern, it was your Wisconsin, it was your Illinois, it was your Minnesota. USC and UCLA, they didn't have a veto. They were not all that warm to the discovery that Oregon and Washington could join the conference so early, could join the conference basically the same time USC and UCLA. They were not all that thrilled with it, but they did not have a veto over it. Those big-time schools in the Big Ten that were not thrilled with the Oregon-Washington addition, not because the consensus were that they were against the consensus that they were schools 17 and 18, it was the timing. They did not want to add them on at that time. That was not the plan. It was not the plan. Again, the Big Ten adding schools now is not the plan. They are reluctant to do it now. We have reported that to you. Two things can be true at the same time. They have prepared. They've been having their positioning. They had Cruz and Cantwell positioning. They've had post-elevated Cruz and Cantwell positioning. But they're reluctant. But we're going to go back and we're going to see who was really, really, really against the Oregon-Washington addition. And it just so happens that a couple of those schools that were not thrilled with the timing of the Washington-Oregon addition in the Big Ten, they're going to have the biggest voices in deciding who is going to be school 19 and 20, regardless of the timing. They might not be for the timing now, but they're going to have the biggest voices of school 19 and 20. One of those schools that was completely against the addition of Oregon and Washington on August 4th, 2023, 22, that one of those schools just so happens to be a school that I brought up a couple of weeks ago, and I reported here that particular school is throwing their support to a particular ACC school. And we'll leave it at that until we get to the article. So, I told you this show was going to be scattershot today. I usually have a certain formula. I usually go through this story and that story and this story, and I'm organized. But today was not that day because we are getting a little bit of information here, a little bit of information there, a little bit of information there. We're looking for backup evidence. I have got people reaching out to me that I've never even heard of before. I have checked them out. They are who they say they are. They're in positions of whatever. And the very interesting time right now. I believed that it was going to be big time cloak and dagger. I mean, big time, no leaks anywhere. Things are starting to leak. So, I'm going to deliver to you as much as I possibly can. I wanted to get it out there today because who knows? I mean, again, we put out the information about the quick strike as quick as possible. And again, just right after we did that, the University President of Miami said what he said, and then Ross Dellinger said what he said. And I am not going to be shocked after this live show. We're going to get more information in the next week that is going to mirror the information that we delivered to you tonight. So, this is the only story we're covering besides, of course, the Spotlight. The Spotlight series continues. The North Dakota State Bison, are they going to be the representative in the playoffs for the G6? Could it be? Will it be? We're going to talk about it. North Dakota State Bison. Let's do the roll call. We'll get into it. I appreciate everybody joining us. Thank you so very much. And we started off with the incredible, edible Bill G. Oklahoma State Cowboy. 5 gifted memberships. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. Who got the 5 gifted memberships? It was Junie 9999, Tumasta, Grateful Full Image, Nathan Jones, and Ryan Martin. All of you are knighted officially today. Cloak and Dagger College Football. That means welcome to the family. And that means you can go to our library of episodes, watch all the episodes, including early peak Cloak and Dagger episodes. Thanks for that, Bill G. I appreciate your incredible generosity, like always, helping us keep the lights on and grow the channel. Mr. Oklahoma State Cowboy, Bill G. Thank you, sir. You're so very kind to this program. Thank you, Bill G. Unbelievable support from Bill G. All right, let's get to the roll call here. We got to talk about stuff here. BYU football is in the house. Amazing Blue is here. Tim Lyons is in the house. Jose, Great for Trojan. D5 Terps, Amy S is here. The other Gygax, the notorious Sun Devil. We already got Jose. We've got Amazing Blue, D5 Terps. Where are we? Now I am lost. The Big Lubbock is in the house. Rock and Rant is here. 2 more co-sponsors added to the Protect Act today from West Virginia and Vermont. It's getting rather interesting. Eric is in the house, 6883. Appreciate you coming on in. We've got the Golden Bear, Cal Bear. Greg, 12 states are suing to block the Paramount acquisition. I really don't have any thoughts on it. I'm sorry, Cal Bear. I know Minnesota is one of the states. Massachusetts, Oregon, Washington. I read a little bit about it. I just don't have the intestinal fortitude or the IQ, to be honest, to follow all of these suits and we got more and more of the eligibility, all these. I refuse, no matter, look, it might be that I'm doing a bad job. Guilty. But I'm not going to, I refuse to carve out a section in a PATC live show where it's court cases, where I got to spend 30 minutes on court cases every single day. It's an important story. The downstream effects. Look, the suit, are the suits going to be effective? Is it going to matter? I have no idea, Cal Bears. I apologize. I have no idea. No idea. Cranky Tiger is in the house. Ross Dellinger, the Senate comments. Commerce Committee announces 2 more co-sponsors to the PATC Call. Shelley Mohr, we knew she was going to be. We've heard her talk about it. Peter Welch, a Democrat from Virginia Tech. Azon the Kid, thank you, Jose, is in the house. The Big Gun Shop, Skaven, yes. RFR Mac is here. Charlie Atwood. We've got a $5 holla from the one and only Preston from Greensboro, North Carolina. Preston, I generally want to thank you for the year-round college football talk. Us junkies appreciate you. Thank you for the generosity, for the $5 holler, Preston. I'm very thankful for you and you junkies out there, you PATC Einsteins. You got to be a junkie. You got to be a sicko to watch this program. We're going to talk North Dakota State football. We just talked about East Carolina, James Madison. Oh, by the way, I'm going to make an executive decision. I have to take out Delaware. I am going to make a couple of comments on Delaware's chances of getting into the college football playoffs, representing the G6. But I will do that. But I'm not going to do a full spotlight show on Delaware. I want to, but I can't, because I have to add in the New Mexico Lobos. Shame on me for not having New Mexico on this list. But we're going to have to add them on. New Mexico will be the last team that we do the spotlight during this off season. New Mexico will be team number 80. And then I'll take a few minutes to talk about Delaware, because I think there's a couple of I think there's a chance that Delaware surprises everybody in Conference USA. And only college football sickos would have any interest in that. But that's why we are who we are at PATC. Thank you, Preston from Greensboro, North Carolina. I appreciate your generosity. Something just fell into my eye. Something just got into my eye. Woo! Okay, I'm going to try to survive. D5 Terp says he's a sicko. Come on, Greg. We want the Lobos and the Blue Hens. It's going to be the Lobos, and I'll make a few comments about the Blue Hens. But at some point, there's got to be a cutoff line. At some point, there has to be a cutoff line. The sooner that bill passes, the sooner the breakaway silos shivving continues. Okay, let me just go into the Ross Dellinger here. Let's go into this and hold on, everybody. Hold on. Ross Dellinger reports The Senate Commerce Committee announces 2 more co-sponsors to the Protect College Sports Act. Senator Shelley Mohr, Capito, West Virginia, and Peter Welch, Virginia Tech. Washington, D.C., they've added their names as co-sponsors of the Protect College Sports Act. Bipartisanship legislation. Ted Cruz, Maria Cantwell, Eric Schmidt, Chris Coons. The bill aims to end the disorder facing college sports with nationwide standards governing NIL, transfers, eligibility, and enforcement. The support of the legislation includes 24 collegiate athletic conferences, 280 colleges, universities across 49 states and Washington, D.C. Okay, well, again, we wait for the news. We wait for the news if and when it gets scheduled on the Senate floor. That is going to be quite the event if it gets scheduled. And then the floor vote. If that happens, we're going to be covering it live here at Peek Around the Corner. We are going to be covering it live. All right? C-SPAN PATC. We've got a $10 holler from the one and only, the legend, Evil Badger. You know, I'm hoping the season starts. Is there a way we can move up the season? Can we move it from August 29th to July 18th or whatever Saturday is? Can we do that? Because because Evil Badger, when he has all this time to contemplate, to think about what's going to happen in college football season, the Evil Badger has gone from Luke Fickell, he might just keep his job. Luke Fickell, Wisconsin could, yes, I think they're going to make a bowl game. I think Wisconsin's going to beat Minnesota. And now, the Evil Badger. Wisconsin win and loss predictions. Notre Dame lost. Western Illinois win. Eastern Michigan State win. Penn State lost. Michigan State win, USC win, UCLA win, Iowa win, Rutgers win, Purdue wins, Maryland wins, Minnesota. That's a 10-2 record. Oh my God. In about a week from now, Evil Badger is going to have Wisconsin in the college football playoffs and in the Final Four, the semifinals. Oh my God. Evil Badger is going to have Anthony Calandria as a Heisman candidate in New York City. Oh my God. Evil Badger Ryan Willie is going to have Luke Fickell as head coach of the year. Oh my God. Is there any way to move up the start of the season to July 18th? Ryan Willie is full of optimism, and it ain't going to stop. It's not going to stop. We can't stop him. He's a force onto himself. Evil Badger, thank you for the $10 holler. Holy smokes. Thank you for the massive super chat. I appreciate it, my friend. Thank you so very much. My good. Evil Badger is dropping the mic on ya. He is. He absolutely is. Wow. Wow. Woo! All right. Thank you, Evil Badger. Thank you, Ryan Willie. Appreciate you, my man. Thank you very much. Okay. Before we get back into, I would like to have people comment on this or give me a phone call later on. But I just thought, Does this mean that when you add co-sponsors at this time, does that mean, is that an indication that this could be scheduled for a vote? Like this could happen pretty quick? Is that a leading indicator or no indicator at all? Let me know in the chat. Let me know at the phone call. I don't know. Look, I don't follow politics anymore. I graduated with a political science degree, but I think it's just an excuse for people to hate each other. Really, I think I despise politics, but we got to cover it here because politics is a big part of all this. And is this an indicator that this is going to get pushed to a vote when you add in co-sponsors? Is this an indicator that they got John Thune to, that he's given them, yeah, we're gonna put this on for a vote? Let me know. Let me know. Because I have no idea. I have no idea. Cocaine is a hell of a drug. Rick James, R.I.P. Thank you, Taytown Hawk. Hey, look. It's the time for optimism. It's the time for optimism. Because look, I'm throwing out Golden Gopher propaganda. I'm getting a lot of Rock Chalk Jayhawk propaganda. Now, do the odds weigh heavily that after 4 weeks of the season that I'm going to be coming into the studio dragging my half-dead carcass onto the seat, depressed about my Minnesota Golden Gophers, and Ryan Willie calling for the head of Luke Fickell, saying that he's got to be fired? Sure! The odds are greatly in favor of all that happening. But today on July 13th, Ryan Willie's got the Badgers at 10-2. Let's go. Let's go. All right. Thank you, Taytown Hawk. Very much appreciate it. Cranky Tigers, the wheels have been greased. There will be a vote. Don Scruggs, we are all undefeated. Kenneth Maynor, seems the bill has momentum. Again, if the bill passes, Vox Quindaro, and Donald J. Trump signs the bill, I got to eat a double cheeseburger with 2 different types of cheese. And that will be my very last show. It will be over. There's no way I can come back from that. Mr. Monkey says Kansas will be a pretty good at 4-8 team, I'm afraid. All right. Let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's do the spotlight. And then I'm going to be all over the place because it's a little bit here, a little bit there. I don't really have an organized back end of the monologue. This is going to be quite unusual. I'm going to try to express some things. You all going to have to read between the lines and some stuff. There's nothing imminent. But if this, nothing's imminent. But there's been a lot of positioning, a lot of talking. And at some point, the conferences have made their decision, their pecking order, and now can they get those schools in-house at a certain time, at a certain date, 2 years from now, 2 months from now, depending on this bill and other things that happen. If one conference acts, the other conference is probably going to have to act. Politics, there's all these different variables, but we do have some information, and I thought it was important to put it out there today because I got a feeling that some of this is going to be reported within the next week or so, especially if that bill gets scheduled for a vote. Spotlight. College football, peek around the corner. The North Dakota State Bison. The dominant force in FCS, the Missouri Valley Conference. North Dakota State, their fans, their alumni, their boosters, and they have them. When they play a football game, they expect to win that football game. And now they finally made the jump. Now they are part of the FBS. They're part of the Mountain West Conference. Brett McMurphy has predicted North Dakota State to be the G6 representative into the playoffs. North Dakota State, it looks like they're going to be favored in all their football games, almost all their football games, by more than a touchdown. Can they be dominant in the Mountain West Conference this year? I'm not sure. Because, first of all, their quarterback. Now, again, let's be careful here. He hasn't played. But Nathan Hayes has been in the program for a couple of years. Head coach Tom Pulisic. He did not go into the portal. He did not aggressively go for another quarterback. North Dakota State has been incredible at developing their quarterbacks. But again, from my perspective, big question mark. From North Dakota State's perspective, not so much. Running back DJ Scott, another guy that they're developing, was not RB1 last year, but when he played, he was effective. 502 yards rushing, 5.3 average per rush, 6 rushing touchdowns. North Dakota State was not aggressive in the portal when it comes to their offensive weapons. They were aggressive in the portal when it comes to their line, to the trenches, to the offensive line. North Dakota State feels very good about their offensive line this year. And that's not good news for the Mountain West Conference. They had to bring in some guys, but they got some really good offensive linemen in the portal that got some good production. Some good rated numbers from Pro Football Focus. DJ Scott, he's all primed, ready to go in 2026. They've got a younger guy here, Miles Mitchell, who played just a little bit last year. They've got a true freshman coming in that they believe is going to be able to help them right off the bat. North Dakota State, you're talking about Kirk Cignetti being really good at talent valuation. North Dakota State has been dominating the talent valuation game for over a decade. Miles Mitchell, barely played, but ready to be RB2 for North Dakota State. Now, when you come to the wide receivers, they did lose some guys. But again, Jackson Williams, who played last year, 17 catches, almost 300 yards. He's back. They've got a tight end that they believe is going to be a superstar. Rice Kessel, 15 receptions, 335 yards receiving, 22.3 average, 1 receiving touchdown, 22.3 average per reception. Wow. Wow. Look out for Rice Kessel in 2026. The defense is going to be led by linebacker Donovan Woodland. Again, another North Dakota State veteran. 44 solo tackles last year. 106 combination. 6.5 tackle for losses. 3 interceptions from this dynamic linebacker. They did not have to go to the portal for all their guys. But they did on the offensive line and some on the defensive line. The North Dakota State schedule. Jacksonville State is going to be their first official FBS game. Air Force on September 12th. Sacramento State Hornets on September 19th. But everyone's going to be looking at on that October 10th game at UNLV. If the North Dakota State Bison roll in to Las Vegas at 5-0, and UNLV rolls in at 5-0 or 6-0 if they beat Memphis, first game of the season, woo! That game could decide everything. Everything. Now, I can't quite put North Dakota State at the same level in 2026 as I got UNLV. I think this is too much of a difference. UNLV's got a prime running back, ready to go, ready, ran over 1,000 yards last year. They got Jackson Arnold as their quarterback. We've got Nathan Hayes over here wearing the Bison colors. I think it's too much of an edge. I'm going to give it to UNLV. And in my spotlight, I've got UNLV number 1. I've got East Carolina number 2. Boise State, because of their schedule and other things, I've got them number 3. I've got North Dakota State number 4. So I do not see North Dakota State being the G6 representative into the college football playoffs in their first year as FBS. But give that program time. Give them a couple of years, and I think they're going to be ready. Hey, look, it is very difficult to imagine a North Dakota State football program not finishing at 10-2, not finishing in 11-1. But again, they're stepping up. They're stepping up in class. It's going to be more difficult. Let me know how wrong I got it once again. Let me know how you believe North Dakota State Bison are going to go into the playoffs, and just like they did in FCS, they're going to go and challenge and win the Mountain West, and they're going to be the representative in the playoffs for G6. Let me know if you think that's going to happen. I don't think so. Not quite. I don't think they're good. I don't think they can beat UNLV at UNLV. Well, let me know your comments. And so let's get to it. Let me go through your comments here a little bit. Go North Dakota State. North Dakota State is getting the G6 playoff spot. I think they will win the Mountain West. Boise State stumbles, the American Conference carnage, the Bison going to stampede. And if they are going to do all that, it would be a stampede. That means they're running over people like they do in FCS, where they just run you over and the quarterback gets developed. We've got Helmer Hennison. Thank you so much, Helmer Hennison. $2 holla. Hemmer Hennessy starting to think that Greg secretly likes cheeseburgers. No, that is absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Let me go through a few more comments and then we'll go to our big story of today. Realignment, positioning. New Mexico Lobos, yes. They were really good. I mean, the Gophers played New Mexico in that bowl game. And that head coach, that defense, they got a lot of guys coming back. Yeah. The only thing that Greg is going to turn out right on is Miami. Well, we haven't really reported. I'm not sure what that means. I'm not sure. We haven't reported. We have put out predictions in which we said we're going to have a 1% chance of being right, but we'll see. We haven't even reported what we believe is about to happen. Although Miami's in a very good spot. We got some. We're going to push the envelope just a little bit on that later on here. Jason Eck fan here. Yeah, I mean, I'll say it. Luke Fickell, Wisconsin or Nebraska is going to fire Matt Rule or Luke Fickell, or both of them are, and Jason Eck is going to be the new coach of Nebraska or Wisconsin. I think that's what's going to happen. I think he means in season records. What do I have you talking about the ACC? Rock and Ranto doesn't think they're going to be playing Louisville in the ACC championship game. I think the Hurricanes are going to be playing Louisville in the ACC championship game. Yes. Herman, former coach of Houston Cougars and the Longhorns, going to be helping out at Florida State. Hold on one second here. Hold on one second. I would absolutely love to disagree with Rock and Rant on Miami. But I can't. Miami, Notre Dame, Texas, and Ohio State, with Oregon, Oregon's with those. And Indiana is right below them. I mean, those. And Georgia is just below them with LSU. I'll take Miami, Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Texas. I'll take those four. The PATC Einsteins. You can take the rest of the field. Okay. I meant that you were wrong on North Dakota State. They're going to the playoffs. All right? I got UNLV. Right now, that could change. We're going to do the spotlight on 6 more teams, and then we'll have it all figured out. All right. Realignment positioning in Washington, D.C., New York City, Birmingham, and Chicago. I want to take us through an article that was written back on October 13th, 2023 by Ross Dellinger. Kind of a post-mortem on Oregon and Washington jumping to the Big Ten. It was both of us or none of us. That was the title of the article. I want to spend some time on this. And then we'll go to your super chats, your phone calls. Because in some ways, if there is that shot clock, if people act before the shot clock goes down to zero, if there's a quick strike, it's going to resemble a lot like this, what happened here. Because this was not a scheduled expansion. The Big Ten had a lot of interest in Oregon and Washington. They had made the decision that those were the schools that are going to be 17 and 18, but the timing was not what they wanted, but they basically had to act. Is that the same thing that's going to happen now? That's why the Big Ten is preparing. That's why this elevated positioning that is going on, which we have some more information on that. We'll get to it. And Oregon and Washington were a combo, just like Texas and Oklahoma. But USC and UCLA were not a combo. They did it alone from each other. Is the SEC next expansion going to be a combo? Is there going to be some coordinated? Is the SEC going to say, we'll take you, but we'll take B, but A has to come? And I think there's a very good chance that there is going to be something like that, where the package deal has to fit. And I think the Big Ten is probably the same way. All right, let's get into it. We're not going to go through the whole, we're only going to go through like 10% of this, all right? So I'm going to skip around. They're talking about how Washington and Oregon moved to the Big Ten was complete on the morning of August 4th. The duo's decision landed like a combination punch, leaving the Pac-12 crippled. The latest blow to the conference set staggering after the first, a left hook from USC and UCLA in July of 2022, then a gut punch from Colorado just a week prior. That was July 27th of 23. Oregon and Washington together served up at the knockout swing for the 108-year-old conference. Again, we're going to skip a lot of this, okay? We're skipping a lot of it. Washington and Oregon, the rivals turned partners. They're rivals, except for realignment. It was none of those two or both of them. Because the Big Ten wanted both or none. They didn't even want to expand at the time. There was no Stanford consideration. There was no other consideration, just like what we reported in real time when this was happening. It was Oregon and Washington. I'm going to skip a lot of this. We're only going to go to the part that really has to do with. Most know the gist of the story by now. In a meeting on August 1st, Pac-12 Commissioner George Kliavkoff presented the league presidents a new television package with Apple that was considered inadequate. We don't have to go through all that. Washington and Oregon administrators began scrambling, says one official. For 3 days, August 1st, 2nd, 3rd, into the night, into the morning of August 4th, they balanced intense negotiations with the Big Ten officials while having ongoing discussions with the Pac-12 colleagues over the Apple deal, keeping both doors ajar, uncertain of which they'd march through. In a fascinating wrinkle, the two programs needed one another for their realignment shift. But during a wild 3-day stretch in early August, they weren't always on the same page. One day Oregon was in, Washington was out. On another day, Oregon was out, Washington was in. The two of the country's fiercest rivals had transformed into a tango partners. It was on and off at different degrees, said an industry source with knowledge of the negotiations. Every hour it changed. Talks with the Big Ten moved rapidly, and there was a reason for that. Discussions between the two programs and the Big Ten began months prior, after the announced departure of USC and UCLA. Absolutely. In June 30th of 2022, the talks basically were between the Big Ten, Washington, and Oregon. That was like the only pathway to expansion. If a bunch of things happen, and all those things happen. One of them, Kevin Warren leaving office, but we're not going to go through that whole list again. In August 2022, 1 month after the Trojans and Bruins emerged, Washington and Oregon each sent to the Big Ten headquarters a 40-plus page slide presentation in an attempt to convince the league to acquire them. Yahoo Sports obtained both slideshows. Now, can you imagine the slideshows that are being presented to the Big Ten and the SEC? The elevated positioning that is going on right now? All that is happening, ladies and gentlemen. All that is happening. The case for Oregon to the Big Ten, the Ducks presented slideshow kicks off, advancing academic, athletic, and financial prosperity, a partnership between the Big Ten Conference and the University of Washington. The Huskies' first slide reads, "They were far from alone within the Big Ten office last summer. Then Commissioner Kevin Warren." This was pre-Tony Petitti. Kevin Warren led an expansion exploration that spanned more than a dozen schools, many of them who reached out to the league about an acquisition after the Los Angeles schools joined. Conference office administrators created a list of desired programs thought to be attainable, according to multiple sources who have seen the list. So this list were schools that were thought to be attainable and who would provide, of course, value to the Big Ten and who were interested in possibly joining the Big Ten. The list included Notre Dame. Notre Dame is they're always on the list. North Carolina, they've always been on the list. Clemson was on this list. Florida State was on this list. Pittsburgh, they're always on the list. Kansas, they're always on the list. California, Stanford, they're always on the list. Arizona, Virginia is always on the list. And of course, Oregon and Washington. In fact, outside counsel for Oregon and Washington met with the Big Ten administrators twice last year. Once in Chicago and another in New York. Now, this is Ross Dellinger's article. When it happened, Brett McMurphy, at that time at Action Network, he reported it. He said Washington and Oregon, they're meeting with the Big Ten. And the chatter behind the curtain in those two cities. And we presented you the chatter behind the curtain during that real time with Oregon and Washington. Okay. So what happened, as far as PATC understands it, is that it quickly, when this list was from Kevin Warren, the list quickly shrunk because it was considered by the Big Ten Legal Counsel that North Carolina was not attainable, that Clemson was not attainable, that Florida State was not attainable, that Pittsburgh was not attainable, that Virginia was not attainable. It was Oregon, Washington, Arizona, Kansas, Notre Dame. And Notre Dame did not have the interest. So it was basically Kansas, Arizona, Stanford and Cal, and Oregon and Washington. And when that happened, when the list shrunk, it quickly became an Oregon and Washington expansion or no expansion at all. There's a lot of people in the Big Ten that were against this timing of Oregon and Washington. Not against Oregon and Washington, but the timing of Oregon and Washington. Why is that? For a couple of reasons. Again, we've explained it. You want to do your expansion closer to the next media package that you can negotiate with their current or potentially new media partners. This was like ridiculous. This was right after they signed that agreement, a year afterwards. So Oregon and Washington were not going to get the money. But another major reason why that there were certain schools that did not want this to happen at this time, why Tony Petitti did not want this to happen at this time, is because Oregon and Washington were going to be targeted as part of a Big Ten Big Scoop in 2030 as a blend, Oregon and Washington and a couple of schools out east, and their top targets were North Carolina and Virginia. Well, again, North Carolina and Virginia were not attainable because, again, this happened all before Florida State and Clemson won that massive case, that settlement with the ACC. Now, of course, Clemson and Florida State and Pittsburgh and all of them are talking with the Big Ten and SEC. This was before all of that. Okay. So, Oregon and Washington became the focus as we reported in real time at Peek Around the Corner, if you were part of our PATC family at that time. I'm just going to skip ahead here. At some point, the Big Ten's going to be, this is our pecking order, and that's it. We don't need to look at any more data. We don't need all these talks. This is our pecking order. The positioning turns the decision, even if it's a year from now. At some point, it becomes, this is it. I don't know if we're there yet. We're probably pretty close, or maybe it's already happened. Okay. Outside counsel for Oregon and Washington met with the Big Ten administrators twice last year. Well, ladies and gentlemen, they met the Big Ten a couple of times last year. The year before, the Big Ten expanded with them. Let's get this perfectly clear. When the Big Ten met with Washington and Oregon twice, the year before, they were, even though Oregon and Washington were the top two targets, it was still a long shot, maybe not a long shot, but it definitely wasn't the chalk that the Big Ten was going to expand with those two schools the following year. As we reported in real time, it had to take this to happen, Big 12 to poach the Pac-12. But the Big Ten had to be prepared. They had to have their ducks in a row. They had to have communication with Oregon and Washington. Oregon and Washington were heavily pursuing the Big Ten, even though they didn't know if they were going to join the Big Ten. In fact, they didn't even know they were going to join the Big Ten for sure until that morning of August 4th, the day that it happened. So when you got people saying, Greg, or whatever, how can they be talking right now, Greg? You said, Greg, there's nothing imminent. How can they be even talking? They don't even know, but the quick strike, you say, Greg, the Big Ten's reluctant. Yes, they are. They were reluctant back then. But everything happened. It fell into place. The Big Ten could offer a little bit more money without diluting the slices of the other Big Ten schools. Fox put it up, and Washington and Oregon went back and forth, and they decided they better do it, the Big Ten members. It's a different story in 2026, but it sort of mirrors what happened back then. The Big Ten has prepared themselves. The SEC has prepared themselves just in case, certain dominoes fall, the cruising can't wheel bill, the media partner says, okay, let's jump on it, whatever, all those things. So yes, there has been meetings. And it's starting to leak. Now, I know the chatter behind the curtain knows more than I do. And they're not talking about it. Because they've got stories written up that if something bursts, they're going to have all the background information ready to go. That's how it works. That's how the sausage is made here at Peek Around the Corner. I have to follow some of those rules, but some of them I don't. We are the rebel outpost at Peek Around the Corner. We are the rebel outpost. There are things that I can disclose once in a while. Then you're going to find out when you go back that it was pertinent information, even though maybe it did not seem like it at the time. Okay. We had this list of schools and went through it with the chancellors and presidents. Kevin wanted Oregon and Washington to come in with USC and UCLA. The schools were not keen on a West Coast pod. A year later, after the wild 3-day stretch in August, a $60 million commitment from Fox, at least a few angry Big Ten administrators who were vehemently against another expansion, the Ducks and the Huskies together, of course, were in. There were a few angry Big Ten administrators. There was one particular Big Ten administration that was more angry than anybody else. I'll get back to the article. I will get back to the article. Does anybody remember what school was the angriest about the timing of the Oregon and Washington expansion? Does anybody have that answer in the chat? What Big Ten school was the angriest at Oregon and Washington being not USC, not Michigan, not Ohio State? None of those. Not Ohio State, not Minnesota. Minnesota's for it. Not USC, not Ohio State. Penn State. Penn State. Now let me circle back to the article. Let me circle back to the article. It was bleep, bad deals or the Big Ten. Washington and Oregon were getting some really bad, the Pac-12, as we reported in real time. The Pac-12 was getting horrific offers from their potential media partners. We were done expanding, said one Big Ten administrators with direct knowledge of the meeting. Tony thought it was done too. We'd walk away from Oregon and Washington the previous year. We were done. Not forever, but they were done for that time. They were done. Very reluctant to do it now. Just like the Big Ten in 2026. All of that changed. On July 27th, the first domino toppled. Colorado Chancellor, Athletic Director Rick George, Colorado to the Big 12 starting in 2024. Then they talked about the Pac-12 leaders are meeting. They were not given a good deal. One administrator, Pac-12 said, described it was bleep. Kliavkoff occasionally updated the presidents, no athletic directors during the board meetings. Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark was heavy pursuit to poach several Pac-12 schools. And then, and we're not going to go over all this. There was a time that Oregon Mega Booster Phil Knight supported the streaming deal, but maybe not the distribution amount. The Apple deal was presented August 1st. And then it talked about how the Pac-12, on August 2nd, the jig was up. In a story broken by Yahoo Sports, the Big Ten presidents were mobilizing to formally invite the two schools, Washington and Oregon. On that Wednesday, it was shared with us that Fox was in the mix offering more money. A Big Ten source said it would not be dilutive to the other Big Ten members. It was new money. Not a whole lot, but enough to get Washington and Oregon on board. We'd already studied the demographics and realities on Washington and Oregon last year, so it moved quickly. The Big Ten had already studied the demographics and realities on Washington and Oregon last year. so it moved quickly. The Big Ten and the SEC, demographics are important, enrollment cliff, markets, market power. They've got their data. There's been meetings. Do they have their pecking order? Is that cemented in? I can't quite say yes yet, but if not, they're probably working towards that, and maybe they do have it done. Demographics, realities. This school, we see their valuation. We see how they're going to be evaluated 10 years from now. Back to the article. It doesn't mean all the schools agreed. Ohio State, Michigan, and especially Penn State were at first against more expansion. Michigan moved first, by the way. Michigan moved towards that expansion first. Though they eventually voted for the move, leaders in State College expressed disappointment to the point that one administrator described their feelings on adding Oregon and Washington as no bleeping way. Leaders at State College expressed disappointment to the point that one administrator described their feelings on adding Oregon and Washington as no bleeping way. What did I report a couple of weeks ago on Penn State? We got some information on a school that is backing the addition of a particular school in the ACC. Does anybody remember what we reported at Peek Around the Corner? A particular school in the Big Ten supporting a particular school in the ACC. Does anybody remember? What we report. AFKA got it right. Penn State is back in Miami. Ohio State has got the biggest voice in this expansion. Whatever the Big Ten does next, whatever they do next, when it comes to creating some enterprise for-profit entity or expansion or adding on a new media partner, the Buckeyes have the loudest voice. They've got the most political IOUs gathered up. Penn State is right with them. The Big Ten went and got Rutgers and Maryland to be a bridge to something else in the future for the benefit of the conference, to be a two-region conference. Now they're more than a two-region conference, but at the time, and to benefit Penn State. You better believe it, that if Penn State is supporting Miami, and we know they are, that's really important. Again, we're not ready to report that Miami is going to be a member of the Big Ten, but you know our predictions on Miami. A prediction, not a report. We don't think anything is imminent. In regards, I wanted to go back in time because I think a lot of it is replaying itself. If the SEC had a choice, they would wait until at least they could start renegotiating, potentially early negotiation on their contract, to wait until the NFL deals are done. The Big Ten would rather, they want to wait. Even though they spent a lot of time preparing, just like Oregon and Washington, and sure enough, it happened and they were ready. All that is happening again. There is some leakage going on. I, for one, am very happy that it's happening again. We know, now this is where I'm going to have to be a little careful. We know that there was a meeting in the month of June, a little bit north of Birmingham. That was a Southeastern Conference meeting with a school on their candidate list. We believe there was, at this point, a pre-Cruz and Cantwell bill meeting between the Big Ten and a school on their candidate list in the first week of February. In the Washington, D.C. area. We cannot name the school. We don't have the date. And we do not have that 100% confirmed. We believe it happened. We have been told that it happened by an incredible source within the Big Ten. In the Big Ten, not chatter behind the curtain. They did not open the door to us on this. So there's no question. I mean, Washington and Oregon, those two schools had multiple meetings a year before they joined the conference, when the Big Ten believed they were done expanding, but they still had those meetings. There has been multiple, many meetings. Pre-Cruz and Cantwell, and especially after Cruz and Cantwell. But we only have information on a couple of particular ones. But the good news is, and this is how it happens, when it begins to leak, when it becomes to drip, usually the water flow happens quickly after that. Usually, again, look, I don't work for anybody. I don't work for the Big Ten. I don't work for the Southeastern Conference. I would never, ever be invited to any media days. If I put my application in, it would be rejected by everybody. I work for you. And I'm not going to burn my sources. I'm doing it ethically. But not all the information is embargoed. To me, it isn't. I put out this information again tonight because most likely there's going to be information coming back to me because of this live show. And I'm going to be able to tell if it is credible. Not 100%, but there's ways for me to know if the information is credible or not. Remember when I told you what I told you early in this show? When I said this is an example of how the sausage is made. A conference, the Big Ten, for example, when it came to Oregon and Washington, meeting wherever they met in New York and Chicago, they're going to go where you are going to be. That helps the cloak and dagger. If your president is going to go somewhere, if they know the president is going to go and is part of some, he's going to go to some research gala, he's going to have his hors d'oeuvres, he's going to have a glass of champagne at some consortium, cancer research, and the conference, if there's enough communication where they know that president, decision maker is going to be at this certain place, then the conference, its representatives, its intermediaries are going to go to where he is or she is. That's how it works. It is interesting that on July 13th, the North Carolina Board of Governors, their next meeting is July 23rd. And I do know that there's chatter behind the curtain that keep looking at that. And there is no agenda items. There is no what they call materials. And so we are going to wait for that. Again, look, if there is a vote scheduled, if it actually happens within the next couple of days, and it's scheduled out 7 days, 10, whatever this is, we do not anticipate the rush for emergency meetings like we believed a couple of weeks ago that the Florida State Money Perch told us. The last update of the Florida State Money Perch was, probably not going to happen. Probably not going to happen because we think this thing's going to get defeated in the House. Everybody thinks this is not going to come out of the House alive. Not quite the pressure for the emergency meetings. But at some point, we're going to have to watch for them. If this thing stays on the track, the Cruise and Cantwell bill. Because even though Oregon and Washington had a couple of meetings, had a whole bunch of meetings, but a couple of meetings with the Big Ten in New York City and Chicago a year before, even they were talking after July 27th, it still took that last moment decision, that last few meetings, those last few phone calls to make it happen. So no matter how much work you do on this, no matter how much Florida State has talked to everybody, no matter how much Clemson has talked to everybody, no matter all that work, there's still going to be that last moment of, this is the final number, this is the decision, these are the dates, this is when we leave, this is what we have to do. And then that final decision is made. And that's going to have to take a meeting with these public universities. The private ones, not so much. Not so much. One more thing before we get to the very generous super chats here. one more thing. I want to go back to this Kevin Warren list. And hopefully I can find it. Oh, please, let me find it. Let me find it. People are busy. People got a life. Okay. If you look at this list, this was the Kevin Warren list. And again, there's not a whole bunch of, there's a lot of new presidents and Tony Petitti. It's a whole new group of people. But you still have your Fox, right? You have your Fox. That's the one constant from the Kevin Warren list until today. You've got Notre Dame, North Carolina. Obviously, they're the top targets. You've got Clemson and Florida State listed here. In fact, Clemson and Florida State are the only two non-AAU schools that were on this candidate list. Again, remember, conference office administrators created a list of desired programs thought to be attainable. So, Clemson desired by at least some portion of the Big Ten. Florida State desired by at least some portion of the Big Ten. Pittsburgh can't, all of these. But the two non-AAU schools on the list was Clemson and Florida State. Let me see if I can, hold on. And remember, this was back in June 7th of 23. Brett McMurphy reported, AAU membership not a requirement to join the Big Ten. Sources told Action Network. Maybe AAU is a preference. It is. But solid academics are measured a variety of ways, sources said. Big Ten, 16 members, including USC, UCLA, are all AAU except for Nebraska. It's not a requirement. Of course, it's a preference. Getting back to this list. So Clemson and Florida State. Now, recently here at Peek Around the Corner, we believe that is a Florida State SEC lean. Clemson to the SEC lean. But we've got Florida State about 90-10. Clemson 70-30. And I think we'll keep it at those numbers for now until I get new information. They were on the Kevin Warren list, and they're on the Tony Petitti list. They're on the Fox list. Did you notice that Miami's not on this list? You notice that, Kevin Warren? In fact, if you take a look at that list, Notre Dame is the only private school on that list. Well, Stanford, private. Miami's not on that list. But they're definitely on that list now. So we can 100% confirm that. That is what, without question. So again, Petiti in this time is not the same as Kevin Warren in that time. Not the same. But again, all those schools, and these were the schools thought to be attainable. Notre Dame's on that list. Because Notre Dame and the Big Ten talk to each other differently than us on message boards and on YouTube channels. Notre Dame has been incredible in staying football independence all this time, but they're never telling the Big Ten, never, we're never going to do it. No, because they are walking the thin line. They've been able to stay upright so far. Pittsburgh is always on the list. Penn State never ices them out. You know, Penn State never vetoes them. Penn State is going to have a loud voice here with Ohio State. They thought that Oregon and Washington would be coming in as a big scoop blend in 2030, 31, but it did not happen that way. Washington and Oregon got in early. So Penn State, Ohio State, going to be calling the shots here. And we know that Penn State wants Miami. Is there going to be a blend? Is there going to be a big scoop blend? Is Penn State and Ohio State going to be interested in acquiring more than two schools? Because if they're just going to have two schools, it's probably going to be on the East Coast. It's probably going to be in the Southeast. Or Notre Dame in the Southeast school. And if it's bigger than that, are they going to be willing to acquiesce to interest on the west side of the Midwest schools and, of course, the Pacific Coast schools? We'll find out. But I just wanted to put this show out there because the meetings, the positioning is starting to leak. I believe, I have no way of proving this, but I believe that the Ross Dellinger article that came out that confirmed our reporting about the shot clock, we called it the quick strike, all of that. I think the chatter behind the curtain is sitting on a tinderbox of meetings, of schools and conferences becoming prepared for different ways of how this is going to play out with Cruz and Cantwell bill. And I believe that was sort of like a release. I believe that Ross Dellinger put that in there, put that article in there because he needed to put something out there. That there has been elevated talks. There is enough evidence out there. And it might be pertaining to the evidence that we have when it came to somewhere around Birmingham, Alabama, or somewhere around Washington, D.C. I don't know. Ross Dellinger doesn't know me from a hole in the head. We've never talked. We never will talk. I'm a nobody. But there's a reason why we had information about the quick strike. There's reasons why he followed up on it a week later. There's a reason why I'm talking about this tonight. And I think there's a reason why I think there's going to be something somewhere from somehow there's going to be a follow-up on all that. But again, it largely turns on the Cruz and Cantwell bill. Just like how the Big Ten really did not want to expand with Washington and Oregon, that it all kind of fell in their lap. If the Cruz and Cantwell bill actually gets to a vote, passes the Senate, and then kicks it to the House, everyone's going to be measuring the temperature of the House, and we'll see what happens. We're going to follow the story here at Peek Around the Corner. Hopefully I'll be able to give you a little bit more information on the meetings that we know. The one in Washington, D.C. is in February, the first week of February. Big Ten with the ACC school. That is the story that we are working on here at Peek Around the Corner. We need one more. We need a little bit more on that story. And if we get it, when we get it, or if it gets reported by a national reporter, we'll talk about what we know. We're not quite there yet. And I'm sure there's others, but it's starting to leak. And history tells us when it starts to leak, there's a lot of motivations in those leaks. People want to hurry up and make the play. There are some forces out there that want all this to happen. They want the quick strike to happen, so they're leaking. They're trying to put pressure, just like how the Big Ten money purchase wanted the USC and UCLA additions. So they put a lot of pressure. They gave me a lot of leaks. History is kind of, sort of, in some ways, repeating itself, like it often does. So I find myself, this is happening again. Nothing is imminent, though. Nothing is operational, as far as I know. If there is, then we don't have the story right here at Peek Around the Corner. Not yet. Let me go to some very generous super chats. We got the Evil Badger, $5 holler. $5 holler, the Evil Badger. Holy smokes. I lost my, there we go. Fickle's job will be safe after winning season this year. Matt Rule will be updating his resume. I tell you, Evil Badger, I've never seen him so optimistic. I don't know why. I mean, I don't know what's going on. But we'll see, Evil Badger. Thank you for the $5 holler. I appreciate it. Appreciate your support so very much. We've got Christopher Hooter. Christopher Hooter, $2 holler. So Kansas, but no Colorado, no Arizona State. I'm going to guess you were referring to the Kevin Warren expansion list. That's how it was. Yep. And Kansas is still the more valuable in the Big Ten's eyes of pretty much every Big 12 school. In the Big Ten's perception. Utah and Kansas are right there. That is the Big Ten's perception at this point. Thank you, Christopher Hooter. Thank you for the $2 holler. Very much appreciate it. And we've got another Christopher Hooter, $5 holler. Christopher Hooter, fun watching all the Big Ten fans hyperventilating in the chat. LOL. Sorry to burst your bubble, Big Teners, but SEC and ESPN are not allowing the ACC Big Ten scoop. Thank you so much, Christopher Hooter. Appreciate the $5 holler. Greg, don't go breaking my heart. Don't go breaking my heart. Mama Duck, Clemson Tiger. Greg, don't go breaking my heart. I don't know what how am I breaking it? I don't know how I'm breaking your heart. I don't know how I'm breaking anybody's heart. Thank you, Mama Doug, Clemson Tiger, $2 holler. I didn't have any bad news for Clemson tonight. Overall, I think it was good news for Clemson tonight. Thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate it, Mama Duck. Thank you for your support. Thank you very much. Again, Mama Duck, make sure you tell your 85-year-old father the next PATC rendition. Make sure he watches it, he listens, because I'm going to outperform all of my other performances. I think he's actually going to like my next one. Thank you, Mama Duck. Thank you very much, Christopher Hooter. The Eva Badger has true faith. There's no question about that. There is no question about that. Let me go back in the chat here. Thicko to Clemson. He's 86 now. Another year wiser. Now he can truly appreciate the golden vocal cords of Greg the Gold. Vox Quindaro had to duck out. Did Flugar mention the Utes? No, I did not. No, I did not. Leslie Hill's in the house. Clemson, stay close to my nose. Oh, getting my hopes up. Got it. Got it. Yes, he did. I don't think I did, Daryl. Did I? Well, I mentioned them, but not really. Gotta run. Thanks, Greg. Thank you for coming on in. Monkey says. Thank you, sir. Florida man. Florida State bought the major hospital in Tallahassee, valued at $1.4 billion. Yep, we have covered that story over and over again. Florida State has done a lot. There's a war between the SEC and the Big Ten in the chat tonight. I'm sorry, I have not been able to watch it. Jason Spangler, Greg, I'm not a big realignment fan, but please stop insulting Kansas by placing Utah anywhere close to them. They're close to you. They're close to you, Jason. They're close to you. Miami to the SEC has zero chance. Skaven, yes, the Cornhusker. We've got Cornhusker violence on the Badgers. Wisconsin 3-9 this season. Wow. Frank Patat, Virginia Tech Middle School is 40 miles away from Roanoke and doesn't count toward AAU. They made exceptions for Penn State and Cornell. Runs with scissors inside a Clemson job posting, committed to building an AAU-aligned faculty to address societal needs. Clemson has an AAU goal of 2035. Florida State sent 40,000 fans to Ireland. Friends call me Sean. The Big Ten better not keep sitting on their hands while waiting on Notre Dame. All right, let's get to the phone calls. Thanks for the 250 people that are here tonight. Again, make sure you subscribe, smash the like button if you liked our content, share the video with your family and friends, and don't forget to ring the notification bell because, well, there's going to be some. We're going to revisit this show at some point very, very soon. That is my sincere belief on the matter.
From
Mohr Simmons.
Mohr Simmons is on the line. The floor is yours. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing good, Greg. How about yourself?
Good. We've got breaking news here. Can you hold on a moment?
Yes.
I apologize, sir. I do apologize. I do that a lot to you. I do that a lot to everybody. It's a crazy time,
No
live
problem.
show. Breaking news. Breaking news. Senator from West Virginia, Shelley Mohr Capito, who just was a co-sponsor of the bill. Well, ladies and gentlemen, she just got a donation a couple of months ago. Who did she get a big donation from? Well,
Cody.
Tom McMillan, Smash Sports Capital. Bam! Tom McMillan. Follow the money. Go ahead, Mohr Simmons. The floor is yours.
Greg. Look, I'll start off the calls. You asked the question early on in the show when you said, does this mean that this is going to head to a scheduled date for as the Senate, this bill moving in the Senate?
Yes. Okay. Yep. Okay. I asked that question. You said yes. Okay.
Yeah, yes, it is. It's a good, strong indication that this is going to probably move, and it's going to move quick. Now, realignment is coming. That's right around the corner. Now, I would say this much. For my Noles fans, go Noles. And one thing I would say is, moving forward, I do say that Florida State is going to grease the wheels for several schools to come on into the SEC. There's too many schools in the SEC that want Florida State. I mean, there's too many big playing schools that the Alabama, the Georgia, the Tennessee, Florida, you name it, that want that. Everybody see the numbers. And I keep saying this. When we played two LSU games. We played LSU in Louisiana. That was I think that was a neutral site in Florida. They were big money games. Everybody seen the ratings on them games. Then when we played Alabama, that was another eye opener in Tallahassee. Then when we played Georgia, even though we didn't even have a full complement of our team, and we played in Miami, that still drew eyeballs, ratings, money. So right now, and then we look at the game that we got scheduled with Georgia. That's going to be in Nashville. We had to get another venue, Nashville, neutral site. Wonder why? Eric, this train is picking up steam going down the track. And I mentioned this to you a while back on the show, and I said, look, if the Big Ten don't move, because at that point everything was Notre Dame, and I said the Big Ten got to make moves. You got to whip these presidents in line at the schools to make a move. If not, and you said it, and I also concurred. The SEC is going to make a move, and you best believe ESPN and all going to be forgiven because everybody see the potential of what's coming. So, yes, I see Florida State going to the SEC. I started out on this journey hoping that we would go into the Big Ten. But as time went on, it's clearly pointing towards SEC. I mean, it's a win-win situation. I look at Florida State. Every home game that they will have for its SEC schedule, if I compare it to the Big Ten, Florida State is winning in the SEC, hands down. Now, I'm quite sure y'all got people that travel in the Big Ten, but when I look at Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, we do well against them schools. We beat them schools. Now, Penn State the only one that can say that they tied us 1-1-1. Okay, but we go to. I mean, I like the potential of an Oregon. I like the potential of a USC, but the rest of that conference don't excite me. Playing a Purdue, playing a Northwestern, I might well be playing Wake Forest or Boston College. But I'm not making a call to tear down the Big Ten. My thing is, I see us going to the SEC. Hands down, that conference to me have always been where FSU should be right now at this point in time, because we play big boy football. We want to be with the big brands. So if you look at brand for brand, out of the two conferences, SEC, if you can't dispute that. That is big boy football over there, brand for brand.
Now, did you watch our live show yesterday?
I see you smiling, Greg. I see you smiling and everything. But I'm going to let it go right there, because I want to hear what you got to say. I'm not delusional. Yeah. I'm just keeping it real.
You got it. I appreciate it, buddy.
All right.
You. Great call. Great call. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Morris Simmons, legendary PATC caller. I guess, bigger brands maybe, but again, we did the SEC Big Ten Challenge series last night on a live show. I don't know. I don't see that separation anymore. Not like 3 years ago, not like 4, not like 5, not like 6. I don't see that separation anymore. But anyways, points well taken. Thank you, Morris Simmons. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Call from
Movie Time Blues.
Movie Time Blues. Thanks for calling. Can you hold on for a moment, please?
Yes.
I do appreciate it. Again, people have been so generous here at Peek Around the Corner, the super chats, and for whatever reason, some people I love it. They put down a big comment. And how I had it set up, I wasn't capturing all the words in people's super comments, especially the bigger super comments in which you can express a lot. Put down a big make a lot of characters in your comment. Like a lot of OPD Dunn's super chats, I wasn't able to capture everything he said, and it killed me. And because I'm the Minnesota moron, I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong. I think I figured it out. So I do apologize to all of those who if when I put their comment on the screen, I have not been able to capture everything. But I think I've got it figured out. I think I'll be able to capture everybody's comments. So far, so good in the few days that I made the change. Frank Potter, $10 holler. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. Shout out to the U of Utah and BYU for research that will save football. They're using Violite red light therapy devices to protect against concussions and CTE. I'm not affiliated with the company. Great job, Utah. Great job, BYU. Absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you, Utah and BYU. Thank you, Frank Potter, for pointing that out. Thank you for the $10 holler. Very much appreciated. Movie Time Blues, thank you for your patience. I appreciate it, sir. The floor is absolutely yours.
Yes. I found it interesting how the list of candidates for Big Ten changed a bit from when Warren was commissioner to today. Like during Warren's time, I saw Arizona and Pitt under consideration. Now, I guess Pitt is not under the consideration. and Miami wasn't on the list either.
No, they were not. Yep.
So that must have meant that the conference had different ideas than from Karen Warren. So it is interesting. Now I think we're getting closer to when a decision has to be made. I'm not sure if it's going to be this year or next year, but it seems that every week that passes, that a decision will have to be made, because after, like, say 2 years, then it's not going to be feasible from my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And
it is interesting how the list has changed. First of all, the presidents have changed. A lot of the presidents are gone that were there just a few years ago. Another thing is, what is different now than it was before, that list was right after CBS, NBC became media partners, right?
right.
Now they've been there for a couple of seasons, couple of years, and the presidents are probably, there's no question, their valuations are going through Fox, but also CBS and NBC. So maybe that has made some changes as well. But yeah, go ahead, sir. I just wanted to point that out.
And also remember that Warren has a connection to Arizona State. It seems that Arizona State has cooled off ever since. And whatever happened, there were so many people who said that Cal never had a chance. Turns out they were under serious consideration.
Yes, they were. What I said during all that time is, the people that I talked to, especially the money purchase, never heard of any California steam. And I kept saying during that time, if I hear anything, I'll report it. But I never heard anything. So maybe we do. I mean, my personal opinion, based upon what I've heard, it would be very difficult for the Big Ten to have 4 California schools in the conference, right? UCLA, USC, Stanford, and California. It kind of evolves into a Pac-12 issue at that point. The trouble that Pac-12 had. But yeah, I mean, Brett McMurphy. Remember when he put out his announcement on, like, every AAU school in the ACC and the Big Ten and the Big 12 are a candidate right now in the Big Ten. So that would include Arizona State, Arizona. That would include California, Stanford. So that was then. I don't know if the candidate list is as large as it was back a few months ago. I got a feeling that at some point it dwindles down, but I don't know for sure. Go ahead, sir.
Now, what happens? Let's say the bill fails, but 2 years pass. 2 or 3 years pass. There's going to be another different group of presidents, and who knows what the list was going to look like then.
Yeah.
That's another reason why nothing's imminent.
Yeah.
Well, I'll talk to you later.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Movie Time Blues. Beautiful, sir. Thanks for calling again.
All right.
We've got Christopher Hooter supporting Morris Simmons. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. Morris, Florida State caller is correct. SEC, SEC, SEC. Hold on.
From
Rock and Rant.
Rock and Rant, can you hold on for just one moment, please?
Sure can.
I apologize. I'm really getting behind on everything. I am slow. The fat guy from Minnesota is very, very slow. OBD Don, massive super chat. No problem, Greg. I have problems figuring out me as well. I don't have a trouble figuring you out, Opie, but I did have trouble capturing your incredible comments. I think I've got it figured out. So far, there has not been any problems yet. Hopefully there isn't. Hopefully I'm just like every other college football YouTube channel in which I can actually place the full comment on the screen. Again, I am the Minnesota moron of all college football YouTube, but hopefully we've got it figured out. Thank you for the massive super chat, OPD Don, Mr. Purple and Gold. Again, thank you for your incredible support. Very humbled by it. Thank you, Opie. Rock and Rant, what do you got for us, sir? The Miami Hurricane, the floor is yours.
Don't you think it's really interesting, Greg? I mean, I do. Maybe, and I know you know our take on what politics has become, but just the politics of getting this done. I feel like it's the realignment wave on this bill. Instead of years, it's week to week about how you think about it. Because I'm fairly surprised that two new senators who are already in the Commerce Committee and could have signed on earlier, have now signed on, and they say success has 1,000 authors, right? And failure is a lonely thing, whatever that cliche.
Yeah, that's a great yes. Yeah.
So I'm wondering, were they? And I didn't look it up, and I probably should have. Maybe somebody will, or I can look later. Were they no votes in committee, and now they got an amendment done, and now they're yes, and now they're co-sponsors, and that was the trade-off? Or were they yes votes, and now suddenly have decided to become co-authors, maybe again for some amendment, or was it just they just decided to sign on now because they know it's going to get a vote and it's going to get out of the Senate? I don't know
about the Virginia Tech senator, but the West Virginia senator, I heard her talk about how she was in favor of the bill, I don't know, a week ago, 2 weeks ago. So she's been in favor of it. Now, for her jumping in and being a co-sponsor, is that a leading indicator that we're going to get this thing scheduled for a vote? What do you think, Rock and Rant?
I think it's an indicator they're going to get scheduled to a vote, because you don't want to put your name to. It's one thing to try to get it into committee, but there was nothing for them to gain by adding their name to something. I mean, look, there's always something politics to gain, right? Optics. It's all, failure is still optics. Even some, people take credit for bills they vote against as if they didn't try to take the money away from a district, and then once the project opens in their district, they're out there with the shovel and the hard hat. It happens all the time, and people don't realize that person didn't bring that project to them. But my guess is, why bother adding your name to this now?
Yeah.
If you don't think it has a success, versus because if you think it's not getting there, then you wouldn't add your name again, unless you just think you have some small constituency to do an optics play with. But I don't think either of those people are running. Are up for election between now and the midterm. So it's more about what did you get achieved versus placating a small group, and when you might not even be up for election as a senator for an additional 2 or 4 years, or even depending upon when their term started. So the thing we don't know is maybe they've attached themselves to something that they believe in and want to win, but there's about a wave of amendments to come in the Senate, or if that is a bigger indication that they think in some form, even if amended, that it will get through the Senate and the House. But if we were doing odds on whatever BetMGM, I think that the bill getting to the Senate floor with them signing on to it is now, odds on favorite, even if it's just slight favorite.
Yeah. And I don't know, maybe I'm making too much of the I know what the Florida State Money Perch told us in the last update, and he said he does not expect the emergency meetings to happen now because it sounds like from what he's been told, Florida State had made the determination that even if this goes up to a vote and passes, this thing still there's still enough time. They don't think it's going to pass the House. But, it's the emotional reaction to it, right? It's like, and maybe they get way more than 60 votes, right? I don't know.
Right. Yeah, and that's the point too, right? It's like the SEC and the Big Ten didn't have enough juice to not have those expansion restrictions in the original bill, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and I don't know that the quick action will happen either, right? Even if the bill passes, because you've also said that they think they could fight it in court and don't have to do that. But if their assessment was that, well, they wanted legislation and then they got legislation from Ted Cruz after begging for it that they essentially hate, and now their assessment is, well, we don't think it's going to pass, I would argue that they don't know how to count votes yet on the lobby group that they have, because they were really blindsided, or not blindsided, but at the end of it, they got something in there that you would think if they all had the power that they thought they had to steer college sports. And again, this gets down to, it's not about the Power Four. It's not even about the 138 in the FBS. It's about 500,000 students across multiple sports and multiple divisions in multiple states that don't even have anybody in the Power Four.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, right? So those are the things that are weighing. So I wonder, what happens if, even if they're skeptical about the House, but the Senate does come in, or even slightly stronger, or maybe one amendment passes that they can stomach, but the other thing's still not there, and that one amendment flips enough votes in the House. But if they're just wrong, if their gut tells them they were wrong on the Senate part, do they believe enough in their gut that the House will in fact not do it? Now, I think that's very likely, but I don't know. Has anybody watched anything political in the last couple of years, last 6 years, last 10 years in this country that went to chalk? Because it really hasn't.
Yeah. I put a double cheeseburger on this thing here. If it passes, I got to eat a double cheeseburger. So I did not expect for this to pass.
Yeah, I still don't think it's going to pass, but I mean, I would bet a double cheeseburger, no problem, because the losing proposition is upside for 96% of Americans, except for Greg and those with the messed up chromosome that refuses to put cheese and meat together. But I wouldn't bet anything I cared to lose on it either, because we just don't know. You got House of Representatives members with split allegiance, right? They have a school that would benefit from no expansion whatsoever, but they live in a state that has more alumni from whatever, LSU, and they would definitely be against it. So I think it's hard to tell. The question I had for you, it's interesting that list didn't include Miami, and now it's way hard up, but that sort of matches what the rumblings and people were thinking a few years ago. I don't know what substantively changed between then and now, whether, because it's the Big Ten especially, it's never just been about athletics, but it certainly has been in part, and AAU changed over the years, but it's been a few years since that. So I'm curious about that, just who emerged and who didn't, but also, not that I'm doubting Penn State, I'm just curious why Penn State has is so on board the Miami train, not because I think it's wrong or that I don't realize that they had history, but that history is pretty historically long ago at this point. So I'm just curious what your take was about why that's there, other than the Bob Swangers of the world who remember the Independent Days rivalry.
I don't even know if it has to do with rivalry. I think it has to do with we would love that spot to be Big Ten. So that would help our recruiting. We would love to play Miami to help fill our stadium. You know what I'm saying? I think it's more of we got to get east. We got to go back to the East Coast here, guys. And Miami is the big football brand. We would love to, we I think that's what has. I'm guessing here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
And maybe there's some research part to it.
The recruiting grounds.
There may be some research part to it.
Understood. Yeah, I was just curious if you knew or not. Not that it doesn't make sense. Penn State's got a ton of alumni everywhere, including in Florida. So the basic reasons are always consistent. I just wasn't sure if there was one reason over another why Penn State might be supporting team X, Y, or Z on the East Coast or the South versus another over the others.
Yeah. If you look at it, yeah, I guess, yeah, I'll forget it. I appreciate it, Rockin' Rant. It looks like you're coming on tonight.
I might. We'll see. I posted something. I have a premiere with the guy College Football with Sam, so that's the video that's live. He goes into some Big Ten stuff, and I gave your Gophers a little shout out in it.
Let's go. 8-4 is the floor. 8-4 is the floor. Let's go.
You got me convinced, Greg. You got me convinced.
All right, beautiful. The propaganda has worked. Thank you, Rockin' Rant. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Call from
Dave in Tampa.
I'm sorry. Who is this calling?
Dave in Tampa.
Dave from Tampa. I appreciate it. The floor is yours. How you doing today?
I am doing really well.
Good.
So the list that you showed up there earlier that had Clemson and Florida State that the Big Ten wanted.
They were interested. Yep.
Yeah, I can tell you that I didn't know about your show back at that time, but I can tell you that I can actually confirm that was true because my sister's boss's son had played at Clemson and was still there at that time, and it had been conveyed to her through her boss that Clemson was wanting to go to the Big Ten. So now it makes sense. I always thought, that doesn't make sense that that the Big Ten would even take them, But now that definitely makes sense why they thought that there was going to be a chance of them going to the Big Ten, that they were on that list. And now they've been replaced by, it looks like, probably Miami and Duke, I would imagine. But this whole conference realignment thing has been in the works going back to that time period. But like the list showed, I mean, you see how long they've been working on that. If the Big Ten was working on it, the SEC was working on it. I also had second or third hand information, but I think it's pretty good that my nephew back in 2019 had gone on vacation, and his former high school football coach, worked for one of the major networks on their radio, sports broadcasting. And he told my nephew back in 2019 that by 2030 that college football would no longer be underneath the NCAA. And that just blew my mind. I was like, I can't see that happen. I don't even know how that would even work. Get down the road a few years, and now we can see how things are starting to roll here. And if you don't think that these conferences and them have been working on this for a long time, this isn't something that just popped up recently that they're thinking about doing. This has been going for a long time. They've been thinking about this pull away for a long time and been trying to structure it in a way to where they can pull this thing off. And like I said on here multiple times, this is good. We're going to get there one way or another. One way or another, we're getting there. There's going to be conference realignment. And I think it was your show that you had last night about Texas Tech going to ACC. And I tell you what, it actually makes sense that
No, that was a speculation, right? That we.
I think it makes sense, though.
Yeah.
I think it absolutely does make sense. It really does. I think it's something that could happen. Because Texas Tech's put themselves into a corner here with the whole Sorsby thing, and now this legislation that we all know Cody Campbell wrote. I don't believe Ted Cruz wrote that at all. I don't believe he wrote that at all, man.
Yeah.
That dude wrote a bunch of bills, and it's a disaster. And I think Rock and Rant was right. I don't think it. I don't know. I don't even know if Congress even. I don't know if this thing even goes to committee in Congress. I don't think it ever gets off the speaker's desk to go for a vote. We'll see. It could, but I don't think the House has. I don't think they care. But Florida State and Clemson, the SEC, makes more sense. Miami and Duke to be interested who they do add first. Will it be I think it'll be Miami, but that they always want Notre Dame. And I actually wasn't surprised to see Pitt. I was not surprised to see Pitt on that list. That's one that makes a lot of sense. I know that when the Big Ten was first formed, they were one of the ones that I believe Michigan wanted Pitt.
No,
I think it was Ohio. Was it?
Ohio
State?
No, it was Michigan that wanted it. Minnesota. It was 1950, early 50s. Minnesota sponsored Michigan State. Michigan sponsored Pittsburgh, and Michigan State won by a vote. And so Michigan State.
That was Ohio State. It was Ohio State that wanted Michigan State over Pitt. But yeah, we're going to get there. We're going to get there. It'll play itself out, and it's going to be fun. Yeah. It's going to be fun. Miami in the Big Ten. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be great, and I think eventually Georgia Tech probably gets in there as well. And I also noticed you count up the how many schools were on that list. It was 12, and at the time we were sitting at 16 schools. So I'm not the best math person, but I'm pretty sure that takes you to the conference to 28. Yeah. And that's what you've been saying. A lot of people have been saying what you've been saying, anyways. And I didn't think that the 24 thing makes sense. To get the amount of schools that you're going to need to do this, it would need to be about 28. At minimum, it would need to be 28. 24 doesn't accomplish a super league that's no longer underneath the NCAA. Because I've said on here and other places that the NCAA is not interested in governing college football. If they were interested in governing college football, you wouldn't have conferences with their own officials. That didn't even make sense to me. Each of these conferences has their own set of officials. It's ridiculous, and I don't know what happened to the Big Ten, but Big Ten used to have some of the best officiating in college football, and now it's amongst the worst. It's awful. It's old Big 8 awful, or even current Big 12 awful, because Big 12's got just terrible officiating. But I digress, and y'all have a great night.
All right.
Appreciate taking my phone call.
You got it, buddy. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Beautiful. All right, I do want to thank those who have donated to our show tonight to help us keep the lights on and grow the channel. Big thanks to Bill G, the incredible, edible Oklahoma State Cowboy Bill G, for his 5 gifted memberships. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Preston from Greensboro, North Carolina, thank you so very much. Evil Badger, Taytown Hawk. I need a trip to Midland before my KU predictions. Thank you, Taytown Hawk. I didn't even see that one. I apologize, Rock Chalk Jayhawk. Thank you for the $2 holler. Hammer Hennison. Thank you very much, Eva Badger. Thank you. Christopher Hooter. OBD Dunn. Hammer Hennison. Will Penn State Miami be a rivalry and expand in the Big Ten? Would that be a permanent rival? Is that the question? Penn State doesn't have any permanent rivals. Maybe that would be the one if it happened. Because who else would be Miami's rival? Maybe that would happen. Maybe that would be a permanent rival game. Because right now, Penn State doesn't have any permanent rival games. Iowa has 3 of them. So maybe that will happen. I don't know. A great question. Would it be a rivalry, that game would probably turn into a rivalry. The question is, would it be a permanent rival game on the schedule? Great question. I do not have the answer. Thank you, Hammer Hennison. It very well could be, though. Thank you for the $2 holler. Thank you, OB Christopher Ha. Frank Potter. Thank you, Frank Potter, for also donating to this program. Thank you for the great phone calls, the comments in the comments section. This has been our update on the realignment positioning. We've also, and we're going to have more, things are starting to leak a little bit. I think you're going to see something in the chatter behind the curtain, some more reporting on all of that. We also did our spotlight on the North Dakota State Bison. Nathan Hayes, DJ Scott, Miles Mitchell, the tight end who averaged 22 yards per catch, the great linebacker Donovan Woolen. We talked about the North Dakota State Bison football schedule. That's a big game on October 10th. North Dakota State at UNLV. That may decide the Mountain West Conference. The winner of that is probably going to get to the Mountain West Conference Championship game. Again, tomorrow on July 14th, we are going to do the next spotlight on the Western Michigan Broncos. Buckle up. I think Western Michigan, again, they're probably going to lose to Michigan. First game of the season. But after that, Western Michigan is going to be a threat. Western Michigan plays at home against Boise State in week 4, week 5, something to that effect. Western Michigan is going to run that ball again. They got a quarterback, they got a running back, they've got a lot of guys coming back. The Broncos are going to be a threat to be the G6 representative in the playoffs coming out of the MAC. Do you think I'm crazy? Maybe I am. Maybe I'm crazy like a fox. Maybe I'm Greg the Gold. If you don't believe me, make sure you watch our live show tomorrow as we do the spotlight on the Western Michigan Broncos. And we're going to follow all of these stories. Is that Cruz and Cantwell bill in the Senate, is that going to be scheduled? Is it going to happen tomorrow? Are they going to be doing the scheduling? Will they post it tomorrow? John Thune? I don't know. I do not know, but we're going to follow where the story takes us. And I hope you follow along with us at Peek Around the Corner. Before you leave, subscribe to our channel. Smash that like button if you've liked our content. Please smash that like button. We appreciate all of you. Until next time, from all of us at PATC, to all of you, please you all take great care of each other. And as always, God, family, Golden Gophers.